So, hi guys, it's Tim and Toby again, back for the third episode of the How Germany Lost the War. And this episode, episode 3, will be talking about the largest ever tank v tank battle there was during the Second World War. That was the Battle of Kursk. Now, the Battle of Kursk ran on from July to August 1943, and it was, as I said, largest tank battle there was during the Second World War. There were Tiger tanks on the German side versus the, kind of slightly modern for its time, and slightly new actually at the time, which was the Russian T-34 tanks. And now, just a little quick anecdote, I think, which Toby would agree with, the T-34 tank, Russian tank, was a better tank for manoeuvrability, because I know it didn't have that much of a gun on it, compared to the 88mm of a Tiger tank, but manoeuvrability, speed and everything was much greater than a Tiger tank. So, you're looking at the German army basically going over a flat ground field towards the Russians, who were entrenched with barbed wire, mines, anti-tank, PTRS and PTRSD anti-tank rifles and everything they can think of. Of course, T-30 tanks, T-35, T-34 tanks, firing away at them and kind of meeting in the middle halfway. It's very similar to the First World War, kind of 1950 onwards trench warfare style. So Toby's going to enlighten us a bit more with it.
Yes, so the first day of the Battle of Kursk, pretty much how the battle started was the Germans had been planning for months and months. They actually delayed it, so Panther tanks, which were brand new at the time, could arrive, and they were basically a copy of the Russian T-34, just really over-engineered. These were then horribly unreliable, really unreliable on the day, but I digress into technology there. So, just in the hours before the battle started, the German attack, the Russians actually had found out when this attack was coming, so they actually dropped a really, really heavy artillery barrage right onto the German troops as they were about to attack. And the result of this was it messed up their communications, disorientated their troops, and just overall made the operation go a lot less according to plan than it would otherwise have done. So again, you see the Allied intelligence really showing there. But anyway, the Germans then advanced, and just to give some kind of idea of where this is, there's a very big salient, which is basically just a really big bulge jutting into the German lines. It's about 100 miles deep, and the Germans were going to try and seal this off where it opened by converging on the city of Kursk, and also there's Oriel and other places in there. We'll get to that a bit later. The Germans, it initially went reasonably well, but what they didn't know, the Russians had dug loads of lines of defence. I think it was like up to 5 or so main lines of defence. And as a result, as the Germans were trying to get through even the first line, there were a lot of mines. And because the German pioneers, we were discussing off camera this the other day, they kind of were used more as infantry in a way. They literally had to just go forward into the minefield without really any support, and pull out the mines. Well, that went about as well as you thought it might. The pioneers got scrunched on the first day and really never recovered. So you were relying on, the panzers themselves, so the really big elephant tank destroyers, which were Porsche and Henschel competed for the Tiger contract. Henschel won, and then Porsche was left with loads of chassis for the Tiger he was making left over. So they turned them into very, very big, heavy tank destroyers. They could actually take direct hits from artillery at times. It has been recorded, but it would just completely disorientate the crew inside. So they then had to just drive straight through the minefields. And because they were so complicated, and the Germans kind of, with their very over-engineered stuff, guess what happened? They lost a bunch of the vehicles due to, the tracks being damaged or the running gear. And then as a result of that, they couldn't repair them, so they were abandoned. And to make matters worse still, the Germans had not fitted a bow machine gun at all to the Ferdinand, or the Elephant. There are two different types, I get them confused. One had the bow machine gun, the other didn't, but at this stage they didn't, so Russian infantry could sneak up to them and just attach captured German magnetic mines, and there you go, that's your several million Reichmark Panzerjäger down the drain.
Yeah, well said, Toby. And as Toby was brilliantly explaining, is that Russia, all doubt, knew exactly what Germany, where they were going and when and how. So they were a bajillion times step ahead of Germany. They had defences, they had barbed wire, everything, artillery, bombardment, everything. And as you say, thousands and thousands of casualties on both sides happened at the end of the battle, and it was a Russian victory as well, because that tactical might of the Russians of planning in advance and getting things set up, and basically they fought a defensive game to keep wearing the Germans down, so as they send more troops in, more troops are going to die, so there's no point really then going on the offensive, which was a brilliant thing for Russia at the time. Oh yeah, Toby?
A lot of people also consider it just, the big tank battles just in the middle of the salient. It wasn't just that, though. There was there was a lot of infantry involved here, a lot of infantry on tank on infantry. Even the Air Force, was involved. The Germans had control of the air early on, but then began losing control in the air a bit later, and as a result were just getting forced gradually back. Their infantry, yes, a lot of people go, the German infantry is the best, and, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. A lot of people always go, the Russians just won by numbers. Here, I think they actually out-thought the Germans quite a bit, to be honest. I think it was a tactical transgression, probably by the Germans, to launch it at the time they did launch it. Just to kind of give some kind of statistics here. 800,000 Soviet casualties compared to 200,000 German. Now, some people will look at that and say, well, the Germans technically won.